everybody. Welcome to National Bank Investments podcast. My name is Tanya Macpherson. I'm the Regional Vice President for Central Canada, and I'm happy to be here. Today, we have a special guest who is not new to our podcasts and always brings insightful information to the discussion. Senior Vice President, Head of Sales, Annamaria Testani. Welcome, Annamaria.
Thank you, Tanya. It's so great to be back.
We are so happy to have you here, Annamaria, for this very, very important topic, and one that is important not only in our business here at National Bank Investments, but in the industry in general. Diversity and inclusion. What is diversity and inclusion? Let's start there. What do you see it as, and why is it so valuable to be paying greater attention to this?
Diversity, it's kind of funny, right? Because we interchangeably use those two kind of sort of words. One leads into the other. And they're not mutually exclusive. There is a correlation between them. Diversity is basically having different types of prototypes within your organization that don't necessarily, and you can go from a physical perspective, right, that don't look like each other, act like each other, talk like each other, have the same cultural background, have the same religious background, can have differences in their physicality. So diversity is just having a multitude of prototypes, which is actually reflective of the society in which you're currently working. Inclusivity is allowing everyone the ability to be heard, that every thought process has its place and merit around the table. You are including people in the decision-making process or the table discussions, even though technically what they're saying may go against what I call the group think. So one leads into the other. The more of a diverse group you're going to get, the more you have to work hard at making sure that you are inclusive to the thought processes around the table. Just because you put a bunch of, if I were to put people from different backgrounds, different sexual orientations, and different religions all around that table, that does not generate inclusivity. Inclusivity is you have to make an effort to your mental state to be able to listen to them, and not judge them for the persona in which they're kind of sort of coming to the table.
In your opinion, for full transparency, I work on your team. You hired me. I've worked alongside you for quite a few times, and I've watched your career. You started looking at being inclusive and diverse on your teams quite some time ago. In your opinion, what is the most difficult part of implementing this type of program or process into the mix?
I would probably say it's the manner in which we assess risk. So I'll give you an example. Studies have shown, and I think a couple of Harvard Business Reviews have shown that, when we're looking at women, we tend to evaluate them on performance. And when we evaluate men, we actually evaluate them on potential. Those are two different metrics, and they're actually biased. Because at the end of the day, if a woman hasn't been able to show you that she can actually do it, you will view her as riskier, a riskier decision. Whereas it's funny though, if you look at the male counterparts, if they tell you they can do it, but they've never shown you that skill set, there's almost a societal leap of faith. So I think the hardest thing is, how do we attribute risk? How do we sit down and say, and we do this all the time, right? Every person we meet, we do it when we're meeting friends, where we're doing it when we're trying to date someone. We always have a plus and a negative column. The hard part about diversity and inclusion is, could you inadvertently be creating a double standard of judgment on things that you're just not accustomed to? And that inadvertently takes into account a lot of things about diversity. Like I've heard someone say to me, I use my hands to talk a lot, and it bothers my manager. And I think it's kind of funny because culturally, for some cultures, you tie someone's hands down, they won't be able to know how to talk. So why is talking with their hands something that has to be on the table to evaluate the person's potential, performance, or ability to lead? Are we so sensitive as a society that these are the things that detract us from truly understanding someone and following in their leadership? So, the question really needs to be, every time someone says something, so-and-so bothers me about this, I always go, really, why? What is about that would derail you? And when you dig through that, you start realizing, it's just in my head. It's not a material fact. Now, you've said I've been going about this for a long time. Well, the thing is, I don't go out to hire women. I don't go out to hire visible minority. But what I do is I don't see you as that. I ask you very, very open-ended, value-ended questions, and I don't sit and judge you because you answer it differently than, let's say, men would. I look at the message you're delivering versus the messenger.
So, on that note, with hiring, what steps do you take to eliminate bias from your hiring process?
So there's a couple of things. I think easy things you can easily do is you remove the names on the CVs. You can remove, the age, the year of your first, university degree. What that does is it forces the readers to look at the content that's written in the resume versus the name that's following that resume, or the age that's following that thing. I often say to people, you're hiring behaviors. You're hiring a set of knowledge. You don't have to add all these other elements. And I think COVID's been a great enabler. If you think of people that have a disability, a physical disability, in the olden days, you would have had to, go to that office place and they would have seen you with that difference in physicality. Today, we do most of it through Teams or Zoom. All of a sudden, people are going, well, you know what, that you are in a wheelchair or not, is it relevant? I would have probably said to you, we made it way more relevant before, whereas today we've now realized these are just the hiccups. These are, I call these mental hurdles that we put in ourselves. We make it bigger than what it really is. Have that dialogue, have that conversation. Could you do other things? For sure. One of the things I challenge a lot of firms is, do you keep hiring the same profile? And the profile doesn't necessarily have to be physicality. It could also be intellectual. If you keep hiring the same type of profile over and over again, well, who's there to challenge status quo? Everyone agrees with each other. You're going to get that group think naturally. And if you hire someone that's different, how do you support that individual? Because that poor individual that's different from everyone else is going to feel it. What I'm also mentioning here, Tanya, is there's a difference between hiring and there's a difference between hiring to support. Hiring someone different doesn't mean your job is done. You as a manager still have to backfill. You have to help. You have to enable.
So, are more diverse companies likely to outperform their peers?
In order for me to answer that question, we have to ask ourselves, what is it about successful companies that make them successful? So you have to sit back and go, well, those are usually the firms that think outside the box. Those are firms that look at the lighthouse and go, okay, how far into the future can I see? And what are the client's demands or changes coming into play? If that's what makes a company successful, you want to garner as many people as you can that have an ability to think outside the box, or that can see the changing future of what your client's needs are. If you have a group of leaders that don't resemble each other, that go through different experiences, that bring a different legacy to the table, doesn't that give you an edge? Doesn't that give you a such wider perspective? I personally think you actually have to work less hard because the data points are coming back to you. So I do think firms that properly, not just hire, this is not about hiring diversity. This is about being inclusive in your hiring. Firms that do that and actively listen to the diverse feedback loops that come from having a very kind of sort of diverse ecosystem could be disruptors in our market.
So, what's the one thing we can do to have a positive impact on diversity and inclusion within our teams, our organization, for our advisors out there listening, for their teams? What's the
First
one
and
thing?
foremost, yeah, I would probably say that. So there's a couple of things. On an individual level, I always say to people, do you know what your biases are? And I love when people say to me, oh, I don't have biases. I'm like, we all have biases. And we have like ridiculous biases to like, I don't like this kind of food. And then we have more serious biases that we attribute a lot of factors to someone. Find out though, what are the biases that are the most dangerous to your thought process. What do I mean by that? I meet, as you know, Tanya, I meet an incredible amount of people every day. I am very susceptible to the first impression bias. Why? I meet so many people that my brain inadvertently likes to label and categorize people pretty quickly. Well, the thing is, though, if the data points that I'm observing and judging are wrong, well, I have a wrong first impression on the person. When I'm looking at, that's an individual. So I often say to people, learn what your biases are. First of all, I often challenge people, name me 10 biases, and of the 10, which are you more susceptible to? From a firm perspective or a team dynamic, like sometimes we have advisors that have huge teams. What have you done to educate your group to being more aware? To educate what is proper and what is not proper, what is respectful and what is not respectful. This is not going to change because we're going to put a law in place. We're talking about dismantling behaviorisms that have been tolerated and accepted for a long time. There are some jokes that are just not appropriate. You should not be saying them. There are some comments you should not. The problem is when you're the recipient of these comments, we're inadvertently triggering the same group of individuals. So as a firm, I often say, what have you put in place on education? Last but not least, I would definitely say targets. It's no differently than when we decide that we want to get in shape or we want to lose weight. We always put what I call a numerical target. Firms need to start putting down in writing what is your target that you want to attain in 1, 2, 3, 5 years. Once you write down that target, it becomes now your mission to accomplish it. Know your data points. Where are you today? Where do you want to go tomorrow? It's not enough to say, I want a more diverse environment. What is it exactly you need from diversity that you have a blind spot today? So as you can see, it all depends from where your starting point of, but a lot of it is stemmed on education. A lot of it is stemmed on just getting the facts, get the data. The rest will come. We're in this journey. It's going to be for a while.
So when you're thinking about the processes you put in place, how often do you check in and say, okay, what am I doing? Do I need to do more?
For sure, at a minimum, on a quarterly basis, I always want to have something new hitting the ecosystem. So what does that something new means? Does it mean that we create a workshop on something? Does it mean that we go get an outside person that comes in and helps? It can mean a variety of different things, but you need to check in on and off and basis. And so here's one thing that just hit me hard in 2022. We've done a lot of workshops on, our biases and active listening. We are also, like everybody else, hiring incredibly a lot of people. Well, we have to redo that because the new people won't have that, that whole foundation of knowledge that we've actually done for everybody else. So does your system take into account what you're building? Who's being educated? Are they getting exposed to these things? What are the data points you want to keep bringing to the table? What do you want to communicate? Do we want to communicate on a quarterly basis our targets and where we're at?
Well, I'm going to ask you one more question. If you're to give one piece of advice around this topic to the leaders, managers, advisors, everyone in business out there who listens to this podcast, what would it be?
I would probably say you need to acknowledge that you're biased already, and it's okay. Don't fight the fact that you are biased. Embrace learning how to unmantle it or manage it. The biggest hurdle I have with people is they often feel the need to justify to me that their intentions are good. And I often say to everyone, you know what? You have to manage the gap. And what does that mean, managing the gap? The gap between what your intentions are and what people feel. So I do say to people every day, I fight the fact that I have biased thoughts in my head, and they could be stupid, right? It could be like, I don't like red, I don't like blue, I don't like, silly things. The thing is, I acknowledge them, and then I always sit back and go, is it important? Does this need to be retrained out of your thought process? Or can you reframe it differently, Annamaria, so that it doesn't come off as a negative, or it doesn't predispose you to not giving the person in front of you a fair chance because you're not accustomed to someone that's so different from you. Start with acknowledging that we all have biases. We all do. It's human nature. That is the way your brain functions. What I'm really more intrigued about is what are you all doing individually to ensure that you don't let that bias ruin your leadership into making decisions that could have been better done had you been more self-aware. So take the time, learn about yourself, discover what is it about you, your culture, your background, your experiences that lead you to think the way you do. Because if I dig down, we all have biases.
So plenty of work still to be done. Well, I want to thank you for your insight today, Anna Maria. It was great to have a chat with you on our podcast. We look forward to definitely having you back, and I'll sign off on that. So, Anna Maria Testani, Senior Vice President, National Sales, we thank you for her insightful comments today. I'm Tanya Macpherson, signing off.